DOJ releasing a redacted affidavit explaining why the FBI searched former President Donald Trump's home. The Federal Reserve signaling it'll take more steps to slow inflation and try to avoid a recession.
A single month's improvement falls far short of what the committee will need to see before we are confident that inflation is moving down.
Plus, Denver changes its mind on food trucks. They can now operate in Lodo weeks after being banned following a shooting involving police.
No, we're not dangerous for people. We're making food. That's all we do.
And our troops are hitting the gridiron with the Denver Broncos. And we begin with breaking news. Our first look at the justification for why federal agents sought a warrant to search inside Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. Right off the bat, one of the big headlines is that authorities found 184 classified documents in the material that was removed 3 weeks ago. 25 of those were marked top secret. The Hill reports the affidavit also indicates agents believe there would be evidence of crimes to be found at Mar-a-Lago. Much of the affidavit is heavily redacted and is more of an explanation of why the DOJ believes that key parts of it should remain hidden from public view. So here is a look at just a few of the pages that we screenshotted from the government's release. As you can see, entire pages have all the lines of text blacked out. On others, passages of the narrative or where it looks like witnesses or federal agents could be identified, well, those parts are blacked out too. The DOJ is worried they'll be put in danger, or the pressure of having their names out there would keep other potential witnesses from coming forward. The FBI got a search warrant for Mar-a-Lago and seized boxes of documents more than 3 weeks ago. Earlier, we got a very limited copy of the warrant that came from that affidavit that showed the documents may violate the Espionage Act, as well as other laws about protecting state secrets. Former President Trump called for both documents to be fully and openly released, but then called for a third party to review what was recovered instead of federal agents. A judge is asking Trump's legal team to clarify why they think that's necessary. There is a deadline this afternoon. We'll be following this story all day, and as new information develops, you can find updates on air on the denverchannel.com and on the Denver 7 Plus app. Food trucks are back in Lodo just weeks after the city kicked them out following a police shooting. 6 bystanders were hurt in that shooting, but the food trucks weren't involved. Denver 7's Veronica Acosta reports why some small business owners say this reversal is a big victory.
These spots behind me where you see the meters, they have sat empty for more than a month now, ever since food trucks were kicked out of the Lodo neighborhood. These are small businesses that we're talking about this morning that really require some of that foot traffic that typically comes from spots like this here behind me, from bars that let out their customers right around 2 in the morning, grab something quick to eat, and then go on their way. As of tonight, though, those food trucks are going to get the chance to start selling all over again. This is because Denver is lifting its ban on food trucks right here. It does come with some strings attached, though. Between 5 in the morning and 9 at night, those taco and pizza food trucks, whatever they may be, they can come out and start selling again. There's no problem there. It's after 9 that those rules start getting a little more restrictive. The city giving only 7 food trucks a license to operate between 9 and midnight. These new rules mean that when bars are let out at 2 in the morning, they won't have any food trucks here for them to take advantage of. Last week, we spoke with a food truck owner who'd been set up in the area for about a decade. He told us he was optimistic about the lifting of the ban, but did say there had already been damage done to his business.
It's like 80% of what we do. Bills, we pay rent, we pay everything. You know, sometimes you have like 1 or 2 employees, you pay them. So, you know, it's like I'm working for free.
If food truck owners don't follow the rules, they could get a citation or they could get sanctions on their licenses, which of course none of them want. We do know there are going to be 2 spots where these 7 food trucks are going to be able to park and set up. Those are here where we are this morning on 20th and Market, and over on 19th and Blake. In Denver, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Veronica, thank you. Affordable housing is coming to Summit County. Breckenridge and the county announced it bought a hotel in an unincorporated part of the county. It'll be used for workforce housing. The hotel does need to be rezoned before it can be converted and renovated. Aurora is getting more housing to help the city's homeless population. The city is installing 30 new pallet shelters at 2 designated safe outdoor spaces today. These are for people who were forced to move because of the city's camping ban. Aurora now has nearly 100 pallet shelters available for use. Nearly 2,500 students and more than 400 full-time staff could be without a school. The Jefferson County School District wants to close 16 elementary schools, so here's a list of the schools expected to shut down. The district says it's lost more than 5,000 students between 2019 and this year. That's created a lack of resources and special programs, which is limiting student growth.
This is not easy for any of us. I don't want to close any schools. I know our families and our staff don't want us to close any schools. But if we don't, we are not taking advantage of our opportunity to really resource our schools in a way that provides that high quality programming for students.
The school board will vote on these recommendations in November. Schools making the final cut will stay open the rest of this year. The district won't be naming preschool sites for closure until November, before the choice window opens December 6th. Families in Boulder can learn about back-to-school safety tomorrow. The city is holding an event at the Meadows Branch Library from noon to 2. Elementary school students can get information about bike and pedestrian safety, and the city will also give out a limited number of bike helmets. Now that kids are back at school, it'll soon be time for field trips. But when they bring home those waiver forms, what rights are you as a parent or guardian really signing away? Today's Justice with Jessica is all about those pieces of paper you have to sign to make sure that your kids can enjoy a school outing. School is all about learning, but not all of it takes place in a classroom.
My favorite childhood field trip was going to the zoo. Yeah, I used to love going to the zoo.
I mean, honestly, like hiking, just going hiking with a crew and like with a teacher.
Going on field trips can be one of the best parts of being a kid. But what rights are parents signing away when they sign that waiver?
Parents are asking, should I sign the waiver? In most cases, I would say, yes. Go ahead and send your kid on a field trip, because really it doesn't matter whether you sign the waiver or not. You're not going to be able to go after the school in most cases as it is.
Igor Rankin is an education attorney. He says because of the Colorado Governmental Immunity Act, a parent's ability to go after a school if a child is injured is extremely limited.
Have no liability for kind of general run-of-the-mill negligence. Okay, they have liability for what is known as willful and wanton conduct. In other words, intentional conduct.
So if a child is injured on a field trip, who should you reach out to for compensation?
There was some kind of negligence. I would focus on the place where they got injured to see if there's liability there rather than the school. Because going out after the school really is going to be a waste of time in most cases, because the laws protecting schools are very, very strong.
The fact that schools have such strong immunity may make some parents uneasy.
If parents wanted to ensure that they could hold their schools accountable for any kind of serious injuries on school grounds, then they would have to go to their local legislators and change the Governmental Immunity Act.
The bottom line to keep in mind as your kids head off to the next school field trip?
The reality is that even waiver or no waiver, in most cases, they can't go after the school.
If you are able to sue a public entity for an injury you received, there is a limit on just how much money you can be paid out. It's currently just under $390,000. The White House says its plan to cancel some student loans will be fully paid for and could cost nearly $25 billion per year. The Biden administration is forgiving up to $20,000 in loans for some borrowers, which impacts more than 40 million people.
It's going to be about $24 billion per year. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, that $24 billion a year, that is about 3% of what we spend on the military. That's just a tiny, tiny fraction.
The official cost will depend on how many Americans take advantage of the plan. The White House says more details will be released when they get official numbers on that. There are signs inflation might just be easing up a little bit. The government says consumer prices rose 6.3% in July from a year ago. Now, that's a small improvement from June when inflation was nearly at 7%. But July's number is the same as May, so it appears that inflation is stable and not getting worse. Stocks are stumbling on Wall Street. The Dow is down 2%. Hours after Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and the Fed will raise interest rates until inflation is under control. Powell admitted today raising rates will have an impact on the economy.
While higher interest rates, slower growth, and softer labor market conditions will bring down inflation, they will also bring some pain to households and businesses. These are the unfortunate costs of reducing inflation.
The last interest rate hike was in July. The next one will likely happen in September. The threat of a recession only continues to grow as the rates move higher. Be prepared for another closure along the Central 70 project this weekend. CDOT is closing westbound I-70 between I-270 and Brighton tonight. This is the project's last milestone. CDOT will remove the barriers before and in the westbound tunnel and restripe the lanes on the interstate.
Transition is going to be very similar to what you're driving on for eastbound. You're going to have those nice new wide shoulders. You're going to have a new acceleration and deceleration lane on the highway as well. It's just going to be wider overall.
Again, the westbound lanes close at 10 tonight. The lanes will reopen at 5 Monday morning. The eastbound lanes will remain open, so tonight at 10, CDOT is going to close only westbound I-70 between I-270 and Brighton. Eastbound will stay open, and yes, that includes Saturday night, the night of the Broncos game. RTD needs to fill about 200 bus driver positions and 90 mechanic positions, so it's holding a job fair next week. The hiring fair is from 10 to 2 Monday through Wednesday at RTD's building off Colfax in Aurora. RTD's HR department will be there to answer questions, and applicants can tour the facility. You can apply online or at the hiring fair. RTD is offering a $4,000 hiring bonus. Some members of the military are getting a taste of training camp, but a different type of training camp. Still ahead, we'll see their athletic ability put to the test and if they can play for the Broncos.
All the technology we need to live and work on the moon is all stuff that helps us right here on Earth.
Plus, NASA is going back to the moon. We're talking to one of the astronauts that played a key role in the mission.